Hi friends, I'm Gio, and welcome to my channel. This is part 2 of 3 years after high school. We left off in part 1, where our two characters had just met. I'd recommend reading that one so you understand the setup. But let's get started and dive right in so this doesn't get too long. Stu, let's go for a walk. For a minute, Stu didn't move. Then he took my hand and we walked around the neighborhood for 30 minutes before we returned to Melissa's place. Stu didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. We only walked. I did get a look at the emblem on his bracelet. It was the Alcohol Anonymous prayer. Got a basketball? I finally said. No, Stu said. Find one. I'll be back next Friday. When I'm done with the yard, let's shoot hoops, I said. I told my grandpa about what happened, and he looked at Grandma. Grandma's eyebrows furrowed, and she said, "Maybe you need this to heal too. Promise us, you'll be careful." The next day, my grandparents gave me a small present, a black pepper spray keychain. Your grandfather has connections. This isn't a regular over-the-counter pepper spray, but police grade. It's twice as nasty. We believe in second chances, but we don't believe in being stupid. When I return next Friday, the keychain a comforting presence in my pocket. The green Subaru Legacy was parked on the street. The driveway was clear. As I mowed the yard, Melissa and Stu walked out. Melissa held a couple glasses of lemonade, and Stu held a brand new basketball. He still wore only black. Even the mala bracelets on his arm. Melissa whispered something to Stu, but I couldn't hear it over the lawnmower. When I finished my work, Stu came over and helped dump the lawn clippings into the garbage can, and then we shot hoops for 30 minutes. Except for saying hello, we didn't speak. That was okay. When pain is too deep, sometimes the only way to work through it is with physical motion. Back in high school, Stu had his 2 minutes of fun, and then life smacked him hard. We enjoyed the lemonade in complete silence. The next week, we shot hoops and went for a walk. Stu began to open up. He told me about juvie, about all the money he owed his parents for the lawsuit, about the AA meetings, about his life. I told him about high school, about living with my grandparents, about college. Every few minutes he kept saying, "I'm sorry." We went through July and August shooting hoops and simply talking. It went from once a week shooting hoops to twice a week shooting hoops and talking on the phone every couple of days. By the end of August, I even went to an AA meeting with him, my first time. They meet in the basement of the Lutheran church, and halfway through the meeting, Stu stood up and said, "I'm Stu, and I'm an alcoholic, but I've been sober for 176 days. I did some things back in high school, hurt someone pretty bad, and I couldn't live with myself. I stole my parents' booze and drunk to forget, but that never works. I'm sorry for what I did to you, Kyle, but you've given me a second chance. I'm not going to blow it. Because of Kyle, I've been at my current job for months and I'm saving for college." They clapped, and I hugged him. Was I falling in love with him again? When the summer season had ended, I put the lawnmower and tools in storage. I had enough saved so my friend Ross and I got an apartment. Stu and Melissa helped me move in. Stu asked me out, and we dated every weekend. Stu and I still talked 2 or 3 times a week, and we still shot hoops. But he started coming over to hang out. We were talking about taking a trip to see the Grand Canyon over Christmas break. The remodeling at Melissa's place was done early November, and Melissa finally had her wedding. While they were on their honeymoon, Stu and I moved their stuff in. For now, Stu would live with them because he still didn't have the money to move out. I joined them Thanksgiving for lunch. Then Stu and I went to my grandparents for dinner. Instead of the traditional wine, we had a spicy, non-alcoholic cider that Grandma had made. Every weekend, I often went over to pick up Stu, or he'd come over and pick up me, and we'd find a diner and talk, or walk at some park, or did something together. He was smiling again, occasionally, but wore t-shirts and shorts now. He still wore the black mala beads. I was becoming comfortable around him. My grandparents invited Melissa, her husband, and Stu over for Christmas Eve. We had European blonde coffee with small candy canes instead of wine. Though my grandparents remained cautious, the 6 of us had fun. Stu was starting to laugh. Afterward, Melissa and her husband went home while I took Stu back to my place so we could play video games and stream movies and talk. It didn't work out that way. Ross wasn't there, so we were alone. The caffeine, the late hour, the specialness of the night, the intimacy, a little light jazz. We kissed. Our first kiss. It was a slow, delicate moment drawn out into perfection. There was a need in his eyes, a yearning, and I whispered, "Merry Christmas, I forgive you." I held him as he cried, and our closeness became something more. "Can I get you something to drink?" I said. I went to the fridge and found a couple of colas. When I returned, Stu sat on the couch, an odd look on his face. He slightly bit his lower lip. Stu didn't mean to, but he looked incredibly sexy. Slowly, I removed his bracelets, setting them carefully on the table, and kissed where they had been. The passion flared. I unbuttoned his shirt, and suddenly I realized I loved him. With the way he looked at me, I think Stu loved me too. That night, we gave in to the need, the desperation, and shared something deep. Our closeness became healing. Later, we lay in my bed, covered with only a sheet. We spoke and whispered and cried. I held him, and Stu bared his soul and told me about his pain. I told him about mine, and we cried together. Never in my entire life had I ever had a conversation that deep with anyone. Towards morning, we gave into the passion again, but this time it was delicate and beautiful and tender. Our fragile love blossomed. We spent Christmas Day with each other. When Ross finally returned, he was kind enough to only smile. Stu and I went to the Grand Canyon the day after Christmas, and in its winter solitude, we grew closer. Grandpa was right. I needed to heal as much as Stu did. Together, we healed each other. We were inseparable after that, and Stu moved in with me. He no longer wore black, but light colors, and his smile was beautiful. I visited him at the Lincoln Gym, and he came to Coffee. I think my grandparents and Melissa realized what had happened. Every time I saw Melissa, she hugged me and cried, "I've got my brother back. Thank you." In April, Stu took me to the Regal, the finest restaurant in Vegas. To afford this place, he must have borrowed money from Melissa or saved for a couple of months. At the end of our dinner, he knelt and proposed, placing a simple gold band on my finger. He apologized for its plainness because it was all he could afford. I kissed him and said yes. We had a party at my grandparents' to announce our engagement, 1 year after Melissa first contacted me. Except for Jeff and Maxwell, all our friends from high school were there. Though some had their reservations, the best part Stu's parents came, and they started talking to their son again. Early June. I was at Coffee when Melissa called. Her voice warbled with stress. My parents stopped by. Evidently one of Stu's old friends visited my parents and gave them a letter for Stu. I don't know who it was from or what was in it, but when Stu read it, it was like he had become the person he was 6 months ago, and he won't get out of the chair. I caught him holding one of the wine bottles. Please hurry. Oh no. Had one of our high school friends died? After all that had happened this last year, even though Stu had grown stronger, the man was still fragile. What had done this to him? It didn't matter. I would be there for him. I hurried over to Melissa's. Stu was outside, waiting for me, a single paper in his hand. His eyes were red and bloodshot. Without saying a word, he handed me the paper. Stu, stopped by your place and spoke with your parents. I don't think they liked me because they didn't even invite me in. I can't believe how much Vegas has changed. How are you? Last time I saw you, we were chilling in juvie. Did you make it to college? When I asked your parents what you were up to, they didn't say much, but said you were engaged. Good for you. They also told me to leave you alone. Like that's going to happen. We're still friends, right? Where is Maxwell? I want to get hold of him as well. Besides my parents, I haven't heard from anybody. Anyway, I'm finally free. I've been in the Army 4 years, and now I'm finally back. The three of us should celebrate old times with a beer and get drunk. Your fiancée will let you do that, right? Bring her along, because I'd love to meet her. Ask her if she has a friend. We could double date. Do you remember the bar and grill on 7th? We were too young to drink back then, but we aren't anymore. Saturday night, 8 p.m. First beer is on me. Can't wait to see you, buddy. Jeff. P.S. I'm looking for Kyle. Know where he's at because I want to talk to him. A sudden knot of panic lodged in my stomach. Not for me, but for Stu. A bar is the last place he needs to be at. Don't go, I said. He's my friend. I think I need to, Stu said. Then I'm coming with you, I said. I don't think you being near him is a good idea, he said. Safety in numbers, I said. I told Grandpa, and Stu told Melissa. The consensus? Give a polite excuse, but stay away. But, for some perverse masochistic pleasure, I wanted to see the men who had tormented me. I wanted them to know that I survived, and I was stronger than they thought. I also brought my can of mace. Stu called it the Dragon Spitter, because we had watched videos on how to use it, and what it did. Stu drove the Subaru, and we arrived early, holding hands. I don't know who was more nervous. The bar and grill on 7th was a dimly lit place with tables, booths, and bar stools. It was a cross between a high-class steak joint and a bar. The families usually kept to the tables or booths, while those interested in drinking stayed at the bar. Stu and I ordered tall virgin lemonades and staked out a table close to a television playing a baseball game between the University of Nevada and Fresno State. It was early in the game, and neither team had an advantage over the other. Stu's hand was glacier cold. At 5 minutes to 8, a man walked in. He wore brand new khaki shorts and a brand new free-flowing white linen shirt and had a military short haircut, slightly styled with product. He must have just left the salon, and his crisp clothes must be fresh off the rack. He also had really defined arms that even the looseness of the linen didn't disguise. Though the man walked casually, glancing around the room constantly, something about the walk suggested nobody messed with him. His eyes didn't linger on me, but when he saw Stu, he broke into a warm smile and headed to our table. Jeff Adams. The last memory I had of him was the towel fight and then the screaming pain of the broken collarbone. Fighting the urge to reach in my pocket and pulling out the pepper spray. Maybe coming here was a bad idea. Stu must have sensed something, because he squeezed my hand. "Stu, you came. I can't believe it," Jeff said. He gave Stu a quick, manly hug, pulled a chair out, and sat down opposite us. "What'll you drink? I'm buying the first round. How special?" "No thanks. I don't drink. 383 days sober," Stu said, and played with the beaded malas on his wrist. My finger caressed the silver medallion with the AA prayer, and Stu placed a hand on mine. For the first time, Jeff noticed our drinks already on the table. "Sober. You've had a rough time too. I'm still buying, but lemonade for all. Who's this?" I had to chuckle. Jeff didn't even recognize me. Then Jeff's eyes widened, and he noticed how close Stu and I were, holding hands kind of close. Because we were. "Jeff, you said you wanted to meet my fiancé. Kyle rescued me from a bad place and became the love of my life," Stu said. "Kyle Decker? You've changed. I didn't recognize you," Jeff said, his voice rising in surprise. His smile flickered, vanished, and returned. He held out his hand for me to shake. "Hi, long time," I said. I eyed his hand, and it took a second before I shook it. It was strong. "My friend, you are looking a lot better than the last time I saw you, and that's my fault. Before we continue, let me congratulate the two of you. Something good came out of the disaster after all. I need to apologize and do some explaining," Jeff said, shifting seats to sit next to us. The waitress came by, and Jeff ordered a round of lemonade for all of us. "I have to admit, I was a bit nervous seeing you. I didn't know how you would take us," Stu said, his voice trailing off. "It's all good. So Kyle helped you too?" "He doesn't know it, but he helped me as well," Jeff said. "I did? How?" I said. I was a cocky little snot. I told him that I had been the class vice president and I knew how to lead. Turned out I didn't know anything. I applied for officer training thinking it would be a pay upgrade. It also meant I'd gain a better security rating. That also meant that they did some checking and found out about high school, about juvie, and they found the video of us harassing you and you breaking your collarbone. They called my old teachers, my family, and you already know they talked to you. The Army doesn't take kindly to bullies, especially ones that injure others. I was in the room when the base chaplain interviewed you, as well as my sergeant and staff psychologist. I heard everything you said. I didn't like what I heard, but I couldn't argue because they ordered me not to say anything. After the conversation, my psychologist asked me, point blank, "Why would that man ever have your back? Why would anybody?" Then Sarge asked, "Can this private be saved, or are we wasting our time?" Because of what you said, I did a lot of thinking, and I talked with Captain Smith a lot over the next few weeks. For a while, I hated you and blamed you. Then Captain Smith made me realize who was really to blame. Me. I wasn't a leader. I had to prove to everybody that I had what it takes to stay in the Army. In short, I had to grow up. Sarge became my best friend and my worst enemy at the same time. He rode me the entire time. But because of him and Captain Smith, I became a better person. "Did you make it into officer training?" I asked. "It took a while, but I did. Check out the biceps. Thanks to Sarge, I can also do 100 push-ups on command and can jog for hours," Jeff said, flexing his right arm. This is both a thank you and an apology at the same time. I almost laughed. After the hell of high school, Jeff had changed into someone I could like. Stu placed an arm about my shoulders and gently kissed me. "Thanks for saving me too," he whispered. "Now it's time for you two to spill. How did you connect? What was your first date? When is the wedding? Where are you living? Have you planned your honeymoon? If I can get leave, I'm planning the bachelor party. Tell me everything," Jeff said, leaning forward. "Believe it or not, it started with a lawnmower," Stu said, letting go of me to take a sip of lemonade. The waitress stopped by and said, "Are you ready to order now?" porterhouse steak with a side of Parmesan broccoli, Stu said. Spanish chicken with rice, make it spicy, and throw on your phone number, Jeff said, winking at the girl. She giggled. Depends on the size of the tip. Good thing I just got paid. Kyle, what will you have? Jeff said. I started to say. Stop the sniveling crap. I can't believe you're even speaking to this loser, a voice yelled. The waitress jumped, dropping her pen. Jeff reached down, picked it up, and handed it back to her. We all looked in the direction of the voice. Kyle ruined my life, and if you idiots had any brains, you'd realize he ruined your lives too, the voice said, with an angry snarl. A man left a side table and took a seat at our table, pushing the waitress to the side so he could sit between Jeff and Stu. He wore a tailored brown jacket and a pale silk shirt and slim-fit slacks customized to his body that showed his bare ankles. On his feet were French pointed loafers, the shiny black kind. A thick gold chain hung around his neck, and a pair of high-end carbon-frame sunglasses hung from the collar of his shirt. This man's clothes cost easily what I made in a month mowing lawns. That didn't bother me. The short glass with 2 fingers of liquid in it did. He held it in his right hand. Maxwell, you got my message. I'm glad you came, Jeff said, rising. No, Mom did by mistake. She thought it was her lawyer calling, Maxwell said. Excuse me, can I finish taking your orders? The waitress said. No, just leave, Maxwell said. Ma'am, I'll have I started to say. Kyle, you keep your mouth shut or I will break your teeth, Maxwell said. There was an odd smell, kind of earthy mixed with alcohol. Was that whiskey on Maxwell's breath and more in his glass? Oh no. Stu sitting right next to him. I gripped Stu's hand, hard. Was it too late to leave? I glanced at Stu, and my fiancée quickly said, Kyle will have what I'm having, and throw in some of the house barbecue sauce. I remember that as being pretty good. It's the best, she said. Let's split some French fries, I added. The waitress turned to Maxwell, but his glare shut her up. She walked away. As soon as the waitress left, Maxwell said, Kyle, I wasn't expecting you here, but it makes tracking you down easier. I'll be clear. I don't like you. Don't talk to my fiancé like that, Stu said. Stu, you have terrible taste. That man stole my money, and I'm here to take it back, Maxwell said. What are you talking about? I asked. What happened 4 years ago was our fault. It might have taken more work than expected, but both Stu and I have made something with our lives. What's better, we're starting to talk about it, process it, so don't ruin tonight, Jeff said. Our fault? No. Kyle fell on the bench, and it had nothing to do with me. Everybody overreacted, and are still overreacting, Maxwell said. You put me in the hospital, and I was out of school for a week, I said. It's your fault. You made yourself an easy target, so of course somebody was going to pick on you. It's high school. Doesn't give you the right to send me to juvie, Maxwell said. What are you complaining about? Your mommy hired a lawyer, and he got you out of juvie so fast it was like you weren't even there. Grow up, Maxwell, Jeff said. Do you know how long I was under house arrest or on probation? Mom lined up the finest universities. They were the best in the nation. A couple of interviews, and I'd have it made. I couldn't make the in-person interviews because I wore an ankle bracelet. I couldn't leave our house for 3 months, so we Skyped the universities. Then they checked my social media and found the videos people had taken. Mom's lawyer tried to block the videos, but there were too many. She donated a ton of cash to these schools so they would accept me. That didn't work. My record was sealed, but that didn't stop the universities from talking to the high school. Because of Kyle, I received rejection after rejection. It seems I've been labeled as a violent, sociopathic bully, and nobody wants me. Did that happen to you, Jeff? Stu asked. Kind of. Juvie made me bitter and angry, and I thought life was unfair. I'm sorry, Kyle, but I hated you for a while. Sarge saw something in me worth saving and turned me around, Jeff said. You? No, I was too busy getting drunk. When I got out of juvie, I couldn't deal with what I had done, so I turned to the bottle. My sister tried to help, but it was Kyle who really pulled me back together, Stu said. It wasn't me. It was the basketball, I said, smiling. Stu rewarded me with a small kiss. Don't you idiots get it? If it hadn't been for Kyle lying to everybody, none of that would have happened to us, Maxwell yelled. Then there's all the money he stole. Kyle's living the high life off of us. I didn't steal anything. It was a lawsuit because you put me in the hospital. Check the video. Grandpa has set the money aside, and I haven't been able to touch it. I work as a barista at Coffee and run my own business mowing lawns, I said. Ooh, poor little Kyle. He got picked on in high school and he mows lawns. Mom easily paid your lawsuit. It wasn't even 1% of her fortune. But Dad then subtracted that amount from my inheritance. That's my money, and I want it back, Maxwell said. Mom. Good Lord, where's your independence? I'm in the Army. Kyle mows lawns and goes to college. Stu works at the gym. Does Mommy still wash your clothes? You'd never survive Army life, Jeff said, a hint of a sarcastic smile on his lips. F you. You're all losers, Maxwell said. Jeff lives on base, and Stu and I live together. All of us are independent and living our lives. What's stopping you? I said. Mom tried to get me a job with the brokerage she worked at, but they saw the video and said no, Maxwell said. Let me get this right. If your mom doesn't find you a job, you're not getting a job? Stu asked. With all the money Mom has, why should I? Maxwell said. So we made mistakes back in high school, but we survived, and I found the man I love, Stu said. I wouldn't be the man I am today without the Army. I owe Sarge and Captain Smith more than they will ever know, Jeff said. Maxwell took a sip of his whiskey and didn't bother to hide the anger in his voice. My father moved out and demands a divorce. Mom either sells the house or buys Dad out. He says Mom jumps to my every whim and bails me out of everything, and he is sick of it. My dad will no longer pay me my allowance and expects me to get a job. Dad owes me that allowance. Mom promised to pay for the universities, but the ones I've applied to won't take me in spite of Mom's donations. Everybody has seen the video, so what does that leave? Mom supports me, but at a limited level thanks to Dad abandoning us. It's not fair. So Kyle, tomorrow morning, we'll go down to the bank and you will get me my money. I can't, I said. It's locked up until I'm 25, and it's not as much as you think. Besides, I will need my grandfather to access the account. How much are we talking about? Stu asked. Just enough for a nice 3-bedroom house with a little yard, maybe some furniture, I said. I don't believe you, Maxwell said. Maxwell, your mom paid your part of the lawsuit and you're whining. I'm still paying my parents back, Stu said. It's garnished from my wages for 4 more years, Jeff said. The silence became uncomfortable. My stomach became nauseous. I wasn't hungry anymore. Grandpa had sued these guys years ago, and I was getting that money. Stu had every right to be bitter with me, had every right to be angry, and had every right to break off our engagement. My stomach was more sour than the lemonade. Had our relationship just ended? Stu had that same darkness about his eyes that he'd had when he was depressed. Crap. We were in a bar. He struggled so hard to get rid of his dependence. Jeff's smile disappeared. Maxwell had this odd little smirk, and he took another sip of his whiskey. The moment had become awkward and terrifying. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. I want my money, Kyle, now, with interest. I bet Jeff and Stu want their money back as well, Maxwell said. The atmosphere had changed, becoming cold and unwelcoming. My legs started to shake. Could I blame Stu for hating me? Had it been a mistake getting involved with Stu and his family? It had been a mistake coming here to meet Jeff. It was a mistake falling in love with one of the men who had bullied me. Time to leave before tonight became a complete disaster. I pulled out my wallet and left enough money on the table to pay for the dinner I would never eat. "Excuse me," I said, as my heart broke. I really loved Stu, but after tonight, it would never work out. I stood up and tucked my chair in. "Going somewhere?" Stu asked, but there was something cold about his voice. "You are nothing but a common thief. You better be getting the money you stole from me," Maxwell yelled. "Sure, when you give me back the high school years you stole from me," I yelled back. I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. "I didn't steal anything," Maxwell yelled. "Face reality, Max. You ambushed me, you harassed me, you dumped the drink on me that made the floor slippery. After I was hurt, you ran and called for Mommy. You're screwed up more than the rest of us put together. It's been fun, guys, but I know when I've overstayed my welcome," I said. "You're leaving?" "I drove. It's a couple miles to our place," Stu asked. "I'm just going outside to get some fresh air and some thinking time," I said, and walked out of the bar and grill on 7th. Stu had this really odd expression on his face. I think I heard him. No, he just realized we would never work out. No matter what happened, I would not cry. I went outside and started walking. These guys had tormented me in high school, had broken my collarbone, had ambushed me in the locker room. So why did I feel like I was the one in the wrong? Why did it feel like I had lost the man I loved? Because I had. "You will run to the nearest ATM now," Maxwell yelled behind me. I didn't turn around but kept walking. He ran up, grabbed my shoulder, and spun me around. "You will listen to me, or I'll call my mom and have her sue you." "When will you learn that Mommy can't save you from your stupidity?" I said. Maxwell punched me, square on my cheek. I stepped back and reached into my pocket, my hand shaking. Maxwell had terrorized me back in high school, and I was still afraid of him. "Back away, or face the consequences," I yelled, hoping the panic stayed out of my voice. "You're an easy target, and you'll give me my money now, or I will beat you into the ground," he screamed, fists raised. He lunged. My neck tensed, my shoulders tensed, and my whole body tensed. I pulled out the police-strength pepper spray and aimed at his eyes. It only took a second. I sprayed. The top half of his face turned orange, and he raised his arm to try and block it. His arm turned orange. "Stop it, stop it, stop it," Maxwell yelled as he dropped. Wow, this stuff is powerful. Wish I had it back in high school. "Guess I'm not an easy target anymore," I shouted. Just like years ago, Maxwell ran. I called the police. When they arrived, I told them what happened, surrendered the pepper spray, and they took pictures of the nice bruise on my face. I told them I was pressing charges. Shortly after I gave a brief statement, I called for an Uber. As I was leaving, an officer told me to stop by the precinct tomorrow to make a detailed statement. I went back to the apartment I shared with Stu. My phone rang. Stu. I didn't have the heart to answer it. I had just pepper sprayed one of Stu's oldest friends. Stu had just realized that he was still paying off the lawsuit I had against him, and would be for years. Why would he still love me? He wouldn't. I packed what I needed to live in my truck and left the suitcase by the door. I would not go back to my grandparents, but I couldn't stay in the apartment either. Stu must think I betrayed him and used him. I couldn't blame Stu for resenting me, maybe even hating me. And Jeff, he had to battle to find himself, or as he called it, to grow up. Would tonight's realization about the money destroy him? Had it destroyed Stu? He'd start drinking again, and would fall into another depression, one deeper and more serious than before. Once again, it wasn't my fault, but it sure felt like it. Someday, I would buy a house with that money, or travel the world, or maybe let it rot in the bank. I waited in the living room for Stu to get home, so I could say goodbye. I sat on the couch playing random videos on the TV. I did not watch any of them. I'd remain calm as Stu yelled at me. If Jeff came home with him, then they both could yell at me. Just like the good old days. Then I would quietly leave. Stu could live here. These guys screwed up my life back in high school, and they keep doing it. Or maybe I had destroyed my own life. I buried my face in one of the couch cushions and let the tears out. Sometime in the night, somebody lifted me off the couch. I woke hours later in the bed I shared with Stu. Warm, safe. Stu was behind me, holding me while he slept, protecting me. Stu's arms cuddled me close to him, and he lightly snored. The air smelled of bacon, eggs, and fresh coffee. As I stirred, Stu yawned, and he carefully rubbed the bruise on my cheek. Morning, sleepyhead. Your dinner's in the fridge. Got you a lemonade to go. I heard you had quite the night. How? I whispered. The police came in to check the security tapes of the parking lot and asked us a few questions. I tried calling, but you didn't answer. Since we couldn't find you, we came here and found you on the couch. Were you leaving? Why? I thought you wouldn't want to be around me anymore, I whispered, not looking at him. Because of last night? Because of Maxwell? After you'd left, you should have heard Jeff lay into Maxwell. You don't mess with an army guy. He told Maxwell to grow up, and then I told Maxwell that if he ever talked to you like that again, I'd punch him. Then Jeff told him to stop leeching off of Mommy and stand on his own feet. Maxwell marched out. We didn't know he came after you until the police showed up. Maxwell was always an entitled jerk, and it looks like he messed with the wrong guy last night. While the police were asking us questions, somebody caught Maxwell trying to wash his face in a fountain. Remind us to never mess with you again. I sniffed and burrowed deeper into the protection of Stu's arm. He kept me close. About the money thing, I'd already come to terms with that when I fell in love with you. It might be a weird way to think about it, but I'm helping pay for our house, Stu whispered. Is Jeff mad at me? I asked. Not if you tell me how good I cook. Breakfast in bed, lover boys, Jeff said, carrying 2 plates of food to us. Since Kyle is all packed, and I never unpacked, and if you, Stu, can quickly pack, what if we spend a couple of days lounging at the hot springs before my leave is over? I have a lot of apologizing, and we have a lot of catching up to do. I have to stop at the precinct first, I said. Within the hour, I was at the precinct. And that brings us to now, I told Detective Morris and Detective Hill. Did I miss any details? The surveillance video of the parking lot corroborates your story, and we've seen the one from your high school days. It will be aggravated assault for him and self-defense for you. We'll have the transcript printed within a few days, and after you read it, you can update it and sign it, Detective Hill said. Why don't you do that on the way back from your trip? I think your fiancé has waited long enough, Detective Morris said, and nodded toward the door. I went out to the waiting room and let Stu wrap his arms about me. He kissed me and whispered, "Ready to start living?" The end. Thank you everybody for joining me for this story. I appreciate it. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Peace.